Hi, I'm Zaben, and I've got some interesting information for you. So it's been a few months that I've been really interested in the moon and the rotation of the earth. So, did you know that the earth rotates anti-clockwise and revolves around the sun anti-clockwise, and that the moon rotates around the earth anti-clockwise? Like, did you know that the entire universe moves anti-clockwise? Now, I may not have paid attention in schools. However, I've shared this information with a few people and they also didn't know this. So I was like, hey, maybe I'm not a dummy like I thought I was. I was so ashamed when I was like, it does? Then I was so interested. Then why were we moving clockwise? Like, this just boggled my mind. Like, if the entire universe was moving anti-clockwise, all of it, why are we the only beings on a planet floating in the middle of this universe moving through life clockwise? So as I found this information, usually what happens is something leads to something, and then I go meditate, and then I get more information, and then I go Google to see if this information is correct. It just so happens to be correct. And as I was going through that, I was like, why are we moving that way? So I read somewhere that the clocks used to work anti-clockwise when they were first invented in the southern hemisphere. And then in the medieval days, they reinvented the clock in the northern hemisphere. So I just wrote this here. The clocks were made to follow the shadow of the dial, with traced clockwise as the sun moved through the sky. So they were following the shadow, right? Instead of following the light, which is the other way. Now, so then our clocks were basically the ones the entire world follows today, were made in the medieval days, and you know how dark that was, following the darkness, right? Following the darkness. So if the universal law goes anti-clockwise, and we as humans are going clockwise, so I sat with that and I stilled myself, and I'm like, you know what, all the psychic stuff that I have for others, let me go deeper in and figure this out internally. As you know, we all have the true answers within us. We just need to find the space and time and the curiosity to dive deep and trust what we know. Now, what I understood intuitively is that to do things clockwise is locking in a pattern. It's locking in a thought, it's locking in a behavior, it's locking in a pattern, it's locking in a time, right? It's locking in on repeat the same things we keep doing. So think of the medieval days and the fact that we're moving now anti-clockwise, anti the universal expression, the universal flow, because the anti-clockwise of the universe, if you know, is constantly in a state of expansion, creativity, right? Movement, moving and becoming more and more and more and more and more, right? So anti-clockwise is becoming more and more and more, like allowing more things to come in, allowing different creative, inspired thoughts to come in, allowing ourselves to be different, right? When we go clockwise, we are locking in, we are honing down to a specific reality or a specific way of doing things or a specific thought pattern, or in repetition of the past, in repetition of our memories. We're constantly locking in repetition. And we're not expanding anymore. We're trying to stick to the same thing. So this just made sense to me on a psychological and emotional level for all us humanity. From the medieval days until today, we're still very medieval. We're just doing it in different ways. We're just repeating history over and over and over and over again, which is very much following the darkness and following the shadow, right? Like getting what we want through wars, receiving what we desire through hate and anger and through our shadow side, right? And we keep repeating it over and over and over again. Even when we go through our own traumas as children, instead of learning and expanding from that, we actually keep repeating those same traumatic experiences throughout our life experience. And so then I found out that Muslims, or in Islam, Mecca itself, when they go for the pilgrimage, they rotate around it. I've gone there several times, it was euphoric. And yet everyone that goes there doesn't go clockwise. You're supposed to go around it anti-clockwise. You're going 7 times around it anti-clockwise. Now, interesting that everybody who leaves that space after has a humongous shift in their reality, in who they are. They get things shift and change within them is because they have gone with the universal law of expansion, where they are getting rid of old beliefs, old selves, old ways of being, right? To experience something greater, to experience something new, right? To release the old. And then I discovered at random, just because this is my request of the universe now, I wanted God to help me figure this out for myself, that running tracks are designed anti-clockwise. Something to do with our heart being on the left side, that it is healthier for our bodies, that we deplete a lot more energy if we run clockwise. So most tracks in the world are done to run anti-clockwise because it is a healthier way of being. Now think about it. If anti-clockwise is an expansive state, that means that if we're going to run on a track anti-clockwise, we are adding more to ourselves from the universal experience. We're not locking into our past accomplishments and behaviors and beliefs of who we are, because that's what clockwise is. We're locking in who we are, right? And just rotating around that same, we're following the shadow. We're following dark beliefs we have about ourselves and constantly doing the same. Now, if you're running in the track anti-clockwise, what you're doing is you're experiencing a new version of you consistently as you expand the way the universe keeps expanding, because the universe is expanding anti-clockwise. Is it making sense so far? I just feel like, oh, this information, it's helped me so much to release beliefs and everything. And I'll tell you exactly how. Just watch to the end and you're going to see how this can work for you personally in your personal life. Another example is fire rituals. All fire rituals of all kinds of traditions and ceremonies. When you do a fire ritual, and I know this from the shamanic experience also, is that you go around the fire. You make sure to go around the fire anti-clockwise, because you are undoing, okay? You're undoing something. You want the universal law, the universal's expansion, to allow you to release what you don't want into the fire, right? And to allow the universe to offer you what you need for your next stage of expansion or awakening, or whatever it is that you like to call it. And so it's anti-clockwise. Now, when you want to lock in something in any kind of ceremony, if let's say you do like you whisper into something and you know, or a crystal and you whisper into it, or some kind of like a bundle thing, or you, whatever it is kind of ceremony you're doing, and you want to whisper something that you want to lock in, how it's done is you do it, you whisper your desire and you do it clockwise on the fire. You do it clockwise. Why do you do it clockwise? Because you want to lock in that intention. You want to lock in what you desire, right? You want it to stay consistent and not expand. You want this specific thing, so you lock it in, right? You lock it in for it to be part of who you want to become. Are you getting the gist of this? Is this kind of starting to make a little bit of sense? I hope so, because it just makes so much sense internally, and I'm just trying to put what I know into human words, and the images that are coming all over the place, even as I do it now. Let me read again. Reiki chakras. So, because I'm a Reiki master healer, a teacher, but I don't teach, I don't even give Reikis the traditional way anymore, although I adore Reiki. I think it's just the platform for everyone to study that, to know how to hold your energy in, to know how to use source, like be it the tool for source. Those symbols are just magical because they are the way that the universe moves, especially the power symbol. That one is like, here, bring all the power here, right? And if you notice, you can use them both ways. You can use the power symbol anti-clockwise or clockwise, depending on how you want to use it. That also is phenomenal. So when we go to our chakras, I recall, because I've been doing Reiki since I was 19. 19, yeah. As I recalled all the times, that's what happened when I was in stillness. I just kept remembering all the times that when I would just want to clear someone's chakra, or I would feel there's a clogging or a belief or something kunky there, what I would do is I would move my hand anti-clockwise. It was just a thing. I never thought about it. It was just what my body would do. Because yeah, my hand, I would feel something would be holding my hand to move it. I mean, that's how I feel when I do Reiki. Something holds my hand, that there's like this gravitational pull that's moving my hand where the problem is, and it just starts directing it. That's how it works for me. I do distance now quickly for family members and friends who need it. But in general, that's how it works. And of course for my kids. So what would happen is I would go anti-clockwise, and it just felt like anti-clockwise is like I was opening up that chakra to allow it to free itself. And I would just visualize gunk coming out, like little particles floating out, like clearing up the beliefs. And sometimes I would like dunk in and release and move it out in a visual of like a fire pit or water. I love water bucket, salt water bucket in my third eye, that it would go in and just dilute. And I would keep doing that until I feel it was cleared and that everything that was trapped in there was allowed to be freed into the universe, to change and transform as it likes, because it's anti-clockwise. And then I would intend something. I would have an intention for that person. I would intend, of course, just love and peace and harmony and well-being, or whatever is needed that comes out of me naturally. And I would put that intention in, just keep my hand stagnant, as now the vortex of the chakra is open, since I've anti-clockwise it and it's part of the universe law. And I would speak those truths in it, and then I would slowly clockwise that chakra in with those new intentions in, and the visualization that it's all happening, right? I mean, I've always heard that it's worked, and people have been, feeling a lot better after. However, this was just an explanation as to also how we are in function. So now, how does this work for, wait. Let me just check if I wrote any more notes. So basically, whatever we have locked in as a belief, as a state of being, as our value, who we think we are, what titles we've given ourselves, just imagine that going clockwise, we have locked those in. We're living up to that repetitive pattern that we believe we are. So let's say, since this is what I love to do the most, is shadow work and releasing and soul gifts, right? Finding your soul gifts. Just imagine that if I have had a belief and titles I have tried to live up to my whole life, even if the title is, I am free all the time, I have freedom, right? But I'm fighting against not being free all the time. So what I really believe is I'm not free, therefore I'm fighting for freedom. So I'm locked into a belief that maybe was acquired as a young child. And because of how we're living our lives in the clockwise, I keep locking in that belief and fighting against it, right? Because in reality, every one of us is completely free, right? But locking in that reality and repeating myself over and over and over again, repeating the same experiences, different people, different situations, different outcomes, but the same kind of repetition that we all get so suffocated from. It's like, why do I keep attracting the same relationships? Why do I keep attracting the same bosses? Why do I keep attracting no money? Why do I keep attracting failure? Whatever it is that we're constantly attracting, and most of us keep panicking because we keep attracting mainly those things over and over again, it's because we're locked into a belief, into a pattern that we've believed when we were very, very young. And it's like a clockwise thing, right? We just keep repeating that same thing. Now, what if we were able to unwind ourselves from that anti-clockwise and release those beliefs that don't serve us anymore, right? Not in a hateful way like, oh, finally I'm free of lack of freedom, but more of like, oh my God, I'm totally in love with the fact that I was able to see the fact that I was fighting against my lack of freedom, thinking I'm free, but I wasn't because I'm too busy fighting. That isn't freedom. Or that I've been living up to the title of a good girl my whole life, right? Fighting against being a bad girl, fighting against what people will perceive me if I'm not a good girl, right? So in being able to understand the dynamics of the universal law, what if we start to transform ourselves to become more of that? If we can anti-clockwise ourselves. So what I got in one of my, this all happens whenever I'm dealing with my own stuff, which everyone will and always we will. It's just, it depends how long it takes or how short it takes as you evolve and expand in this universe, right? So as I was working through my own stuff, I was like, okay, it's still repeating itself. And I know that life is in a spiral, so I'll come back to that same thing, but maybe from a different perspective that needs to be cleared, and another perspective that needs to be cleared until that belief is completely disassembled. However, it can only be disassembled with my kindness to it. So more what I'm trying to say is what I received is to be able to use the power of the universe, the anti-clockwise, is to visualize it unwinding. You can repeat the affirmation that you desire or you desire to let go of in an anti-clockwise, just by visual. You don't have to do it because I get dizzy. I tried to do the whole I'm rotating. I was like, oh, I'm going to puke. So what I did is I figured just as I'm sitting and let's say I have the belief of I need to be a good girl, like I want to stand up to that title. Why can't anyone notice how good I am? My life is so wonderful. And I've noticed that all the bad people are getting all the crap they want and me being a good girl is not working for me. Right? So what happens is I can take that and say, I anti-clockwise, I release every belief that has to do with me being a good girl, and I allow it to spiral out into the universal greatness, and just visualize it, you're unspiraling yourself as if you're in this cocoon of something and you're unraveling it. You're going anti-clockwise in your third eye. Just try it out, anti-clockwise, anti-clockwise, until you feel that you've been freed of it and the universe has taken it over. When you feel that, just breathe in, and when you breathe out, say thank you. And breathe in again and say thank you, right? And just say, I'm complete with that pattern and version of myself, and I love you for taking care of me all these years, and I let you go with ease. And then, if you want, you can lock in something new if you desire, which is simple by saying, I am free to be me, or I am freedom, or I am clarity, or I am insight, or I am love, or I am peace, or I am whatever it is you feel like locking in. And then you can imagine yourself winding yourself clockwise around it so that you can start to experience this new version of yourself that you want to. So this is my latest intuition. This has been going on for a few months, and I think my new book is going to be called The Upside Down World. Anyway, it's still in the making. I'm still, sitting with self a lot and looking for information. So this is what I wanted to share with you. The wonder of how the entire universe goes anti-clockwise, and how strange and bizarre that we are the only beings in the entire universe on this little planet that's floating in nowhere going clockwise. Like we are living our lives clockwise, which is following the shadow, right? Following the shadow instead of following the light. And I think it's worth contemplating. Please share with me your insights. Everything you share with me will be very helpful. What do you think of this? How has this been working for you? And did you know that everything in the universe was going anti-clockwise except for us And did you know that our clock is based on following the shadow instead of following the light? And that it was all because of the northern hemisphere and how the sun was showing up there. I mean, you can tell the shadow right there, right? So I am having great experiences trying to figure out where I stand in this universe and how to use the universal laws on my behalf. Okay, and going back to old traditions and seeing their truths and what they figured out, and also trying to understand the human make. So it was lovely. I hope this was helpful. Leave your comments, give me your insights. I'd love to know them. And I'll see you in the next episode or video or diary or share, whatever this is. Love you. Bye.